Hello, and welcome back to Conversations on Black Resistance and Mental Health. I am super excited, as I always am, with my guest that we have today, Katia Powell-Laurent. She is the founder of Black Girls Nutrition. And we are going to get into today. Our conversation is about nutrition, particularly around fertility and maternal health. So, let me start by introducing our guest, Katia. Katia, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. But first thing is, I just want to thank you for providing this platform to have this discussion. So, my name is Katia Powell-Laurent, and so the founder and CEO of Black Girls Nutrition. So, we empower women of color from preconception, during pregnancy, postpartum, and actually beyond. And so, we pair them up with culturally competent nutritionists, evidence based information, just a whole wealth of information just to set them up powerfully, because here in America, traditional diets have failed Black women. And so this is where we stand. So we stand in between nutrition, advocacy, research. We do a whole bunch of things for our women.
Awesome. So I recently got introduced to you, and again, I think our first conversation we talked about nutrition. I talked about my history of fibroids and needing a myomectomy, which is surgery to remove fibroids. And you had some really powerful things that you're doing, helping women on their fertility journey through nutrition. So I want to start by just, what was going on in the community that compelled you to start Black Girls Nutrition? What were you seeing? And I know you're also a doula. So like tell us like how do all those things combine? And again, what compelled you to really launch your company and address this issue that's impacting Black women at alarming rates?
So it's actually two different parts. So when I was 26 years old, I lived in Roxbury. I weighed 350 pounds. I lost my baby at 6 months being pregnant. I dropped out of college and I lost my job. So literally, I was becoming one of the statistics inside of the
Mm,
journal articles that I read, and it really scared me. It was wintertime. I wanted to get honey buns, hot pockets, and cheesecake, no judgment. And so
mhm,
that's what I actually did. I walked down there and then I came back home and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, who is she? That's
mm,
not, I mean, you're fly whatever size you are, right? You embrace that. But for me, I didn't want that. I got connected to a local community, the YMCA. And so over 2.5 years, I lost 200 pounds, but skinny doesn't equal healthy. So that started the trajectory of starting Black Girls Nutrition. And so where it comes in with the birth doula and the fertility. So during COVID, yes, that happened, right? We had to change a whole bunch of things in the way that we served our community. And so we did a preconception nutrition survey, because we like to hear directly from our members. We don't want to tell them exactly what they need. We like to
mhm,
hear what they would like, and how can we best service that. And so it was a preconception nutrition survey, 100 members. And I just remember, like it was yesterday, one of the questions was, do you ever do you ever feel that the health of your health or the health of your baby would be jeopardized during labor and delivery or postpartum? 100% said yes. And we asked it a
wow.
couple different ways. And so I sat back and I'm like, okay, before we were talking mostly on weight loss and healthy lifestyle, I need to do something. And so
Mhm,
that's where the focus for Black maternal health came into practice, but then also the doula. So research and theory is like, it's theory sometimes in practice, but you actually need to be there on the ground. And so I was
mhm,
like, how can I be there? Well, become a birth doula and be in the room. So
mhm,
that's
mhm,
actually what I
mhm,
did, because
mhm,
it's just going to give me more information on how to better serve the women that look like me.
mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks for sharing your own personal journey and hearing I always love hearing, people's origin stories about how they started their business as an entrepreneur. I'm always really excited about that. And oftentimes there's some personal connection. So as you started your business, it was really around um, getting healthy, right? And weight loss was part of that journey. And I love what you said, skinny doesn't mean healthy, right? And I'd love to hear a little bit about the mental health or mindset components that are connected with that, right? Because I think as you mentioned, you look in the mirror, you're like, who is this person? Maybe you didn't recognize yourself in that way. And, as we think about the connection to mental health through all the topics we have. Like, what are you providing in that space for women along their nutrition journeys? How does that connect to their mental health and well-being as well?
Yeah, so food is very personal, and nutrition is. You ever heard of the statement "food is love"?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you get to a man? Whatever that goes. What my mother used to tell me through his stomach.
Through his, you get to the man through the stomach, right? Yeah, through his
Yeah.
belly.
So it's serotonin. It's that feel good emotion, and so most people think it actually is produced in the brain. No,
Mm-hmm.
most of it's produced in the stomach. So that's why
Mm.
when your stomach stretches, it's released, and you get that like feel good. I know
Mm-hmm.
me when I'm eating something that tastes good, I definitely sing and dance. I may rock,
Right?
but
This is my little
yeah,
happy dance, right?
yeah. But thinking about um, access and thinking about different kinds of foods. There's certain kinds of foods I go to, would go to when you feel upset or sad, and then if you don't actually make that connection, and intention is everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
taking a pause and thinking like, wait, hold on, how did the chips end up in my hand? Did I just have a bad day?
Mm-hmm.
What actually
Mm-hmm.
happened? Like
Mm-hmm.
doing that like pause.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what we do with our women is we don't package it as mental health because there is a stigma with
Mm-hmm.
mental health and women that look like us. We package it as self care.
Mm-hmm.
So taking care of yourself. So, there was this whole thing called slavery in America and the whole historic and structural barriers that still exist. And so we have this unaddressed PTSD. What do you do
Mm-hmm.
with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you unpack that? You actually have to work with somebody who can actually help you work through that. And I'm not like my lane. I think I talked to you before. I was like, my lane is nutrition and birth doula. I
Mm-hmm.
can only
Mm-hmm.
do certain amount of information and recommendations regarding mental health, right? Because that's just I don't want to do that. It's a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's oh my goodness, I don't even know how you unpack like the historical trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's where you
Mm-hmm.
that's where you can come
Right.
in and
Yeah.
then talk more about that. But I definitely know that nutrition and mental health are directly correlated.
Yeah.
Think back to one of your favorite moments in life, right? There's usually family, food.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know during Thanksgiving, if somebody made potato salad and I don't know them, I'm like, I don't know whether or not.
You're not about to touch that potato salad, right? If you don't know the origins.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that it's such an important point about food being love, particularly in our communities, right? We often gather. When we gather, it's around the meal, right? And we look forward to, we talk about the potato salad, but we look forward to like auntie, whoever is going to do the pie. And, everyone has their specialty. And I think what happens too, we talk about that emotional eating sometimes, right? Where we eat beyond when we're feeling full. We often talk about in our field, we eat in our emotions, right? Where you're having an emotion and food kind of because it's that joy. I think people talk about the stomach is the second brain, right? So there is emotion connected to what's happening in our tummies. Um, but that weight loss journey can also be, and I've heard people say they lose weight, but they also still, from a mental health perspective, they're still not healthy because they have some of the same mindsets. So, shifting mindsets and looking at that through that emotional lens is really critical. And I just imagine in that, as you blend those roles of, nutrition and support during someone's birth journey or pregnancy journey. And particularly thinking about traditional health systems, right, have not cared for us. And even in 2023, we're seeing women being impacted, not treated with equity, not believed when they come to the hospital for symptoms and they're turned away, say, go home, right? Even when we're in distress, that our report of our own experiences aren't necessarily believed. So I know, I can just imagine that that has such an emotional impact on people as well. So as you're doing this work, you're doing an educator, you're an advocate for Black women's maternal health. Um, what do you think we need to know as Black women about our own fertility and our reproductive health? I just remember when I first got diagnosed with fibroids. And this was, I was probably mid 30s. I had never heard about fibroids before. No one had ever talked to me about it. And then once I said I had fibroids, then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, Auntie so and so had this," or "Oh yeah, But we never talked about this. So I just want to hear from you what you've seen. Why is it important for us to have these conversations about our bodies?
Yeah, so if we think about the field of gynecology and its relations to Black women's health and our
Mm,
bodies, it was built off of our bodies, literally. You have
mm-hmm,
Dr. Sims, who's a plantation doctor who did not gain, sorry, did not ask the woman, the three women who are the grandmothers of gynecology, do you consent?
mm-hmm,
No.
mm-hmm,
There was no anesthesia. So he
mm-hmm,
just over
perf-
and over, and that's how you actually got the speculum. And so
mm-hmm,
that in itself, me
mm-hmm,
personally, still
mm-hmm,
too, I switched providers because I didn't feel like I was being heard and I felt
mm-hmm,
like a subject. And
mm,
so all of those feelings that you do feel, I guess I would want to make sure that women, the best data point is you and your body. You know your body better than anybody else. So that in itself. And then also having these conversations around fertility preservation. I've talked to my colleagues who are white, right? And the providers brought it up. And I was
mm.
like, oh, this is nice. But talking to women who look like me, it wasn't brought up until, closer to 40 because Black women, we get all the different degrees. We work on our, we do so much, right?
We're busy. We're busy people.
And so that in itself, we have waited a lot of times later in life
Hmm.
above 35, and then you actually go and they're like, oh, you have fibroids, oh, you have PCOS, like all these different
Hmm.
terminologies. And you're like,
Hmm.
hold on, I go to see my OBGYN and get my pap smear. How come we didn't even,
Hmm.
have this
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
then?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the cultural considerations with inside of the healthcare system, if you look at Black OBGYNs, there's not a lot out there. And if you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to do fertility, reproductive endocrinologists is even less. So, I, yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I was lucky to work with, I think I mentioned this to you, but I have two children and both were conceived using IVF, in vitro fertilization.
Hmm.
And I had a Black woman, OB, who supported us on that journey. So I know she's rare, but she was amazing. And I felt taken care of, in her care. There's almost like an immediate trust, right? When you see
Hmm.
someone who looks like you and you have a conversation, it doesn't always guarantee though, right? But you have that conversation and they respect your concerns, they listen to you, they make space for that, they don't minimize your concerns. That is, and it's such a personal journey because I think we think about fertility and getting fertility treatments as women. I think there's also this mental health component because sometimes you may have had lots of questions like, when are you going to get pregnant? When is the baby coming, right? And you're feeling this some sense of maybe inadequacy or inability to do something that your body is supposed to do. So I know there's also a mental health component going through that process. um one of the things that I was marked, and this is a lesson for everyone out there, as we were going through IVF, people would, and I, was very vocal with my journey. I had met with a woman, I had a friend who had shared her journey with me, and she actually had encouraged me. And I think that was something that helped me really kind of dig into that. But people would say, "Oh yeah, I almost had to do IVF, and then, or it started, and then I got pregnant, so I didn't need it anymore." And that was very invalidating to me. So if you've had that experience, don't say that to someone who's going through the process. What are some of the as we kind of wrap up our conversation, what are some things that you want our listeners out there to hear about this topic? What do you think are the things we need to be really focused on, as for people who are going through their fertility journey, their nutrition journey, weight loss journey? What are some things you want people to just consider and be mindful of?
One thing I want the listeners to actually consider is that there's no shame
Mm,
in having to seek out fertility
mm-hmm,
treatments. Me personally, I've done it. So this is why
mm-hmm,
also I have another data point that gives
mm-hmm.
me that experience and just adds value. And so society also with the stigma, we're just black women and Latino women, we're just supposed to be hyper fertile. It's just
Yeah.
think you're gonna get pregnant
Oh,
and it just happens. It doesn't happen like that. And I
yeah.
guess that point there's no shame. And if, when your mother or your grandmother asks you like 10,000 times about
Mm,
when you're going to give me some kids, just give them some grace, give yourself some grace, and just
mm-hmm,
know that, everything will unfold as it's supposed to be. And just
mm-hmm.
get connected to hopefully a provider in a community of people who look like them.
Yeah.
And these last two things. So I say this all the time. When you go to your medical provider, it could be OBGYN, fertility, etc. You can tell them that there's no decisions about me without me.
I
Right?
love that. Love that. No decisions without me. Wait, said it about me without me.
Yeah, like, yes, come up with a
Love it.
plan of care and then let's talk, let's dialogue.
Yeah.
But then also being aware of endocrine disruptors that are in the beauty products and the
Mm,
foods that we eat. And there's two different resources that are evidence based that I utilize. One of them is the Environmental Working Group. They have an app called the EWG Healthy Living, and the
okay.
other one is Yuka. Well, sorry, Yuka, if I'm mispronouncing it, but it's YUKA. And
Mm-hmm.
so both of them have apps. You can take them with you to the store. You can scan products, and it just lists all the things that you should think about being aware of.
So you're just dropping some knowledge there, but you just like bypassing it. Like we know what you talk. So endocrine disruptors. Can you say a little bit more about what that is and why we
Yes.
need to be aware?
So with endocrine disruptors, so as women, there's all these different hormones that are happening inside of our body, and especially when you're thinking about becoming pregnant, that in itself could offset the balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so the disruptor will put you at an increased risk for certain conditions that we don't want. So they
Mm,
could put you at risk for infertility or different kinds of cancers. And
mm,
so while I love living here in the US, other countries like
yeah.
Europe, they have more progressive legislation and regulations around the food and beauty products that they
We
give
eat.
um,
Mm-hmm.
their people.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. Okay. Thank you. So no shame. Be mindful about not just what you're eating, but what you're putting on your body.
yes,
Anything else?
do, 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 do. Get connected to us too. Like why?
Great. Yeah. So how can we stay connected with you? And I know you have an awesome program that involves support. So you want to share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So if you go to blackgirlsnutrition.com, you'll see the parent company, but the part of the company that's focused on Black maternal health is Hued Mama. So HUEDMAMAS.co. And so I was like, wait, hold on, how do you spell? Um, but one of the
So
things, yep.
huedmamas.co. All right.
And so one of the things that we like to always give back, because we don't want any kind of financial barriers being in the way of you actually trying to improve your health, is we're offering a 21-day fertility cleanse. And it's on
Mm,
August 13th of next month. And it's just, I'll give you all the links, but it's
yes.
21dayfertilitycleanse.com. And so you're going to learn about we're going to give you a culture meal guide. We're going to give you recipes. You're going to be connected to women who look like you so you can be transparent about your journey or just hear from them. and then just a whole bunch of other resources.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And do you have to be on a fertility journey? Like, are you need to have to get pregnant, wanted to get pregnant to be part of this, or is this open to anyone? Like, what's the?
Yeah, it's open to anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we do focus primarily on women who are trying to conceive.
Mm-hmm.
But the information that we're providing, so this like anyone can actually utilize it. So we welcome everybody. And
Awesome.
then, yeah, because most fertility clinics, unfortunately, they don't have a nutritionist and they don't have a therapist, which I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get that part
Yeah.
of it.
Right.
Um,
It is definitely an emotional journey. So, Black Girls Nutrition, we will post these links in the chat. Black Girls Nutrition, huedmamas.co, and the 21-day fertility cleanse. It has been a wonderful pleasure talking to you today, Katya. I can't believe we're out of time
I know.
already. And I look forward to, I know, definitely stay tuned because we are going to be cooking up some stuff together for sure. So thank you
Definitely.
all for tuning in to another episode of Conversations on Black Resistance and Mental Health. And our topic today was nutrition and fertility. Thank you all.
Thank you.